Good morning, Jivika. Good morning, Bhakti. Were you having practical today?
No, sir. We were having peace lecture.
Okay. So, Jivika, I gave you an assignment yesterday. You completed it fast. Good. What was the reason for giving that assignment? Do you know? Why did I give you that assignment?
Basically, to find out what sort of questions will they ask in the, I mean,
Absolutely, absolutely. So that you can go through the papers. Okay. If you go through the papers, then when you're studying for the examination, okay, you study with that perspective. You know,
yes, sir.
now each and every sentence you will look in with the point of view of okay.
Yes, sir.
That is a basic reason for this MCQ kind of an assignment. Okay. So when you are preparing an MCQ or when you have done when you have in that process of preparing a question paper, it becomes what do you call it? Each and everything you look with the perspective of question paper. Okay. Like for example, whenever we go through any article or something, whatever
Right.
whatever we are reading, we always think it from the perspective of teaching. अरे
True.
अपन बच्चों को बता सकते हैं. This we can include. Okay, in my notes that I have prepared, let me add this also. Okay, so our perspective totally changes while reading. It is not only gathering of knowledge. It is how we can forward that knowledge to the students. That
Yes, sir.
becomes our perspective. In the similar manner, if you are preparing an MCQ, then while reading, our perspective also becomes in that way. Each and every sentence we look it in the form of MCQ. Okay,
True.
and
Yes.
and this all will help you not only for IP, but this will help you for other what do you call that subjects also. Okay,
Yes, sir.
that was the main reason that why I asked you to do that, so that and you get an idea what kind of questions have been asked, कितना
Yes, sir.
होना चाहिए, and how each
Yes.
and every sentence that you read is important.
It's
Also,
important. Yes, sir.
also you get an idea from where to read it, isn't it? I
Yes,
don't know
sir.
whether it was observed or not, but it is IP, which is one of the very important thing that your gate papers are based on, and it is also based on for IP means Indian pharmacopoeia I'm talking about,
Mm-hmm.
and your IP subject ka you can say 20 to 30 or say 40% is asked from Latchman. If you see,
Right, right.
Latchman से बहुत सारे जो sentences है वो उठाते हैं. So that's why referring Latchman becomes very good. They ask from Remington also. I don't know
Okay.
whether you have gone through Remington or not. Remington में भी बहुत
Not
अच्छा
yet.
दिया हुआ है. Very deeply Remington has given all these. Latchman is more or less quite superficial in nature. Okay, it has not gone very deep. Whereas if you see Remington has gone very deep. I don't know whether I've read Remington or not. Okay, so go through Remington also. It is also a very good book. But first you can go through the slides, understand the slides. Then you can go through. If you have पढ़ना नहीं चाहिए लेकिन text books, so that your understanding becomes clear, and then you can go through the Latchman, and then you can go Remington. एक एक reading जब आप बढ़ाते रहते हो, so you can go on increasing your reading by one step you can take ahead, right? And then you can read different books. So that is how you can go ahead with your studies. First reading can be from, as I said, from your slides, textbooks, etc. The second reading should be from Latchman. The third reading from Remington. Maybe the fourth reading from Alton. In case of the chapters which are given very nicely, that is granulation and etc. That is given very nicely in Alton. So that you can refer from Alton. Okay. Then the next step could be from Ansel, and see, most of the data is going to be the same. Whatever is given in Latchman, that would definitely be repeated in Bentley's or Ansel or your Alton or your what do you call that, your Remington. Some one or two sentences एक थोड़ा सा knowledge यहाँ वहाँ differ कर जाएगा, so that you can always gather from there. Okay, yeah. So how many participants are there? Okay, we have 48 participants. Good morning, everybody. Today we have to talk about the containers and closures that are used in pharmaceutical, that are used for pharmaceutical products. Now, when you talk about containers and closures, these, why we are studying this, because these are the what do you call that? These are the things which come in intimate contact with your product. Okay, they are in first contact with your product, right? Your product is in touch with the containers and with the closures for a substantial period of time, and hence you should have containers and closures which are non-reactive, which are not going to affect your product, right? As well as it is going to keep the product safe, it is going to maintain its integrity till the shelf life. Now, do we have such containers? No. No container presently is available which is totally non-reactive, particularly with the aqueous solution. And you very well know that the solutions that we have, the Panther solution that we have, or any other matter for that matter, any call that is used. But presently there is no container that is totally non-reactive. Okay, but definitely we have containers, we have limits for them, whereby we choose a proper container, whereby even if you do not have total non-reactivity, but definitely we can reduce the reaction between your product and your container. Now, talking about the size of your container, according to USP, okay, USP has given limit for the size of the container for the parental products. For a single dose container, the maximum size that is allowed is 1000 ml. Okay, your saline solutions, etc., they have the size of 1000 ml. Whereas if you consider your multi-dose container, that is the vials, etc., they have the size up to 30 ml. Now, why this is there? Why single dose container is up to 1000 ml and why multiple dose container is 30 ml? Because in multiple dose container, what you are going to do is you are going to insert the needle inside it, then you are going to remove the needle. Then again you are going to, it is a multi-dose. So again the second time, again you are going to insert the needle inside it, and again you are going to remove it. Mohit Singh, please, your mic. Okay. So this you are going to do multiple time. As the number of time the needle entering inside this container, okay, is high, that's why what you are doing is multiple time. Hence we are limiting the product up to 30 ml only, so that within few entries of needle, okay, your content is getting exhausted, right? So in order to limit the number of needle entries, what you are doing is the multiple dose container is having quantity only up to 30 ml. Whereas if you take saline, etc., then the entry of the needle or your infusion set, okay, takes place only once, right? It goes once inside the container, and the up to 1000 ml closure is rubber. Okay, moving ahead, let us see important terminologies which we are going to see further. Okay, in our next 1 hour, we are going to study this. We are going to come across this technology a number of times. So the first terminology is leaching. So what is leaching? Leaching is nothing but migration from the container to the drug product. So you have a plastic container or you have a glass container over here. Okay, so this is your glass container, right? And from this container, from this plastic or glass container, when the material comes inside the product, okay, when the material is coming inside the product, then we are going to say that the plastic material has leached into the drug product. Okay, so it is the migration from the container to the drug product. What gets migrated? Okay, there are many ingredients that are present in a plastic container. So any one or more ingredients that are present in this container when you are making this container, plastic container, okay, that may plastic or glass also, okay, so that may get migrated inside the drug product. Okay, and they are added to this plastic or to this glass container for what? They are added in order to stabilize or impart a specific property to that plastic or to that glass. Okay, so when we are, why we are adding it? So for preparing this container, it is necessary that we add in the ingredient. For example, when you are preparing a plastic sizes becomes very important, isn't it? When you are preparing glass, in order to reduce the temperature of your when you are molding, you want to reduce the temperature at which it gets melted. So for that, what you are going to add? You are going to add oxides. Is it different oxides you're adding? So these are the materials which are added to your plastic or to your glass in order to stabilize that product, or in order to impart a specific property to that product. That is a plastic or the glass. Okay, and that material usually leaches out. So that material is important, but that material may leach out and it may affect the quality of your product. So that is the term that is known as leaching. Okay, the second term that you have to remember is the sorption. So now what is sorption? Sorption is opposite of leaching. In sorption, what happens is the material, okay, the contents are migrated from the product to the container. So the container absorbs the contents of your, it may be an active ingredient also, which may get absorbed, or it may be other excipients that are present in your formulation that may get absorbed inside your glass or your plastic container. Okay, so it is what? It is removal of drug content. So it is removal of this drug content from the product. Okay, so this is your product. So from this product, what happens is the drug contents are removed, okay, by the packaging material. Now, if that happens, then definitely it is going to have serious consequences on the active ingredient, or for that matter, for the formulation. Okay, what are the factors that are influencing the characteristic of absorption or sorption of the product from the product? It is the chemical structure itself of the drug or the excipients, the pH of the preparation, the solvent system that you are using in order to prepare this preparation, the concentration of active ingredient, okay, that is present, the temperature, the length of contact, and also the area of contact. So these all factors are affecting your sorption. So leaching is from the plastic to the drug, to the formulation. Sorption is from the formulation to the container. Okay, the next term that you have to remember is chemical reactivity. Okay, in chemical reactivity, what happens is one or more ingredient that is present inside your plastic, it reacts chemically with your drug product. So it is a chemical reaction between the plastic and the drug product. That is nothing but the chemical reactivity. Next is what is modification. Whenever, because of this chemical reactivity or because of any reason, whenever there is some modification in your packaging material, okay, the modification may be physical or the modification may be chemical. So whenever there is some modification because of your formulation in the packaging material, then that is known as modification. Okay, now it may happen because of your formulation also, okay, which I told you, or it may be happen by some other reason also. There may be some other reason also. By any reason, if there is some modification that is happening in the packaging material, then the term that we use is modification. Okay, it is a modification of the packaging material because of the drug or because of some other factors. Just for example, if you take deformation of polyethylene containers, Okay, if you say take polyethylene containers, then these polyethylene containers often cause permeation of what? Your gases and vapors from the environment. Okay, and because of it, there is a loss of content to the container walls. Okay, so there is deformation of polyethylene container, and it is often caused by what? It is caused by permeation of gases and vapors from the environment. So this has nothing to do with your drug product, okay, or your formulation, but it is because of the environmental gases or environmental vapors that the deformation takes place. Okay, but this leads to what? Because of this deformation, whatever is your content that is present inside the container, they gets lost. If you take another example about the formulation, how it is affecting, this is about not the form, this is not the formulation which is affecting your plastic container, but let us take the example of oils. Okay, now if you fill oils in a polyethylene container, okay, then it causes softening of that container. Okay, so it is causing the modification, that is softening. Okay, and if you fill fluorinated hydrocarbons, okay, what they do is they attack your polyethylene as well as they are going to attack your polyvinyl chloride containers. Okay, so this is the modification that is happening. So these are the four terminologies that you have to remember. We are going to see it further many times, that is leaching, sorption, chemical reactivity, and modification, right? Now these are the four things that happen in between your container and your product. Okay, that's why it is very important for you to study this containers and closures, right? Now let us take we have seen the types of container. We have said that there are two types of containers that are used. We said that one is plastic and second is the glass. Let us go with the first type of container. The first type of container is the plastic container. Okay, now usually the thermoplastic polymers are used in order to prepare the plastic containers. What is the meaning of thermoplastic polymers? The polymers which melt at elevated temperatures are nothing but thermoplastic polymers. Now, why do you usually want a thermoplastic polymers? Because what you are doing, the final step that you are doing after preparation is sterilization. And as you very well know, most of the sterilization, as I told you, is followed by autoclaving. So this autoclaving should not affect your plastic container. That is the reason why you are basically using the thermoplastic polymers. There are various additives that are added to the plastics. The plastic additives that are added are plasticizers, the fillers, the anti-static agents, the antioxidants, etc. They are added to your plastic container. Now, plastic container has some basic advantages and disadvantages. The major advantage that plastic container has is it is light in weight. Secondly, again, most important, it is non-breakable. It is economical. It is having low toxicity and low reactivity. But this low toxicity and low reactivity is only when the number of additives that are used are low. As the number of additives that are used increases, then this toxicity and you can say your reactivity of the plastic container, it increases. And then one will say, then don't add the what you call that additives, but that is not possible. Then it won't give that rigidity, it won't give it that structure, it won't give that tensile strength to your plastic container. Okay, that's why addition of these additives become necessary. But yes, if the additives are used in low quantity, then the toxicity and reactivity is low. Now that comes to our disadvantages. Okay, let's come to our disadvantages. In toxicity, it may cause even tissue toxicity. Okay, maybe caused by because of it. Studies and research have shown that it also, some of the additives that are present in your plastic container also may lead to cancer. Okay, if your product remains in contact with the product for a substantial period of time. I talked about sorption. Okay, that is absorption or adsorption which takes place. Okay, so that is another disadvantage. And the next and the last disadvantage that it has is the leaching of the additives from the plastic material. So toxicity, sorption, and leaching, these are the major disadvantage of the plastic containers. Now let us move ahead with the types of plastic container that are used for your parental products. the types of plastics that are used are, the first is the low density polyethylene and polystyrene. Okay. Now these both can be autoclaved. Okay, if they have low amount of plasticizers. So low amount of plasticizers need to be added to these containers so that can be autoclaved. But the problem is, if you are autoclaving polystyrene container, then polystyrene container may get significantly affected. Okay, and it may lead to permeation of gases, including oxygen. So if you are autoclaving polystyrene, then it may significantly affect, and it may lead to permeation, including oxygen, and oxidation may occur inside your product. Okay, so care. If you have other plastic container is softening, okay, at a very high temperature, it may also lead to sorption, okay, or it also may lead to leaching, right? So usually prefer are low density polyethylene and polystyrene. There are other containers also, that is polyolefin containers. Okay, just for an example, you can say polypropylene, or you can say copolymer of polyethylene and polypropylene. Okay, when you mix them together. Okay, so these are the polyolefins plastic containers which can also be used. Now these polyolefins have a very unique property. Polyolefin containers are rigid, okay, when they have product inside it. Same polyolefin containers, okay, that is polypropylene or polyethylene polypropylene combination containers, they collapse, okay, under atmospheric pressure as soon as there is outflow of solution, right? So this is a very good property. I was not able to have the picture of a collapsed container, but this is a rigid container, okay, and this rigid container, as the solution is flowing out, this container starts collapsing. As soon as this container starts collapsing, so oxygen cannot enter inside it. Are you understanding? Hence this has a very unique property, that they are rigid enough in order to hold the product, and they collapse at atmospheric pressure. You must have seen that, most of the containers, when the solution is coming out of that, okay, if you have seen something etc given to a patient, then they start collapsing. Okay, so as there is no airspace that is remaining inside the container now, so what is helping it? The oxidation is getting prevented. So that is about polyolefin. Let us see the examples of it. Okay, polypropylene, it is very widely used product, widely used plastic container, right? It is crystalline and has a high melting point. At one, it melts at 165 degrees C. So for autoclaving, it is going to be very useful. It is having a good tensile strength. It is having low permeability to gases, waters, and vapors. It is translucent. It is abrasion free and it is glossy, and it is basically used for ophthalmic preparation and solutions. Okay, so it is having a unique property of high melting point. It is having a unique property of tensile strength. It is having a unique property of low permeability of gases and water vapors. Okay, and it can be used for ophthalmic preparation as well as for IV solution. The next type of container that comes is polyethylene containers. Okay, we have polymers for. So what about polyethylene container? If polypropylene containers have good strength, container. So first explain different tensile strength in between this, whatever tensile strength that you want. So for that you can use the copolymers. Okay.
आणि मग नंतर छोट्या
Tell me that Siddesh.
झोपणार आहे आपण आता 1.5 तास. त्याच्यामुळे जो सर्वेला आहे ना त्यात काही प्लेस सेट असणार आहे ना त्यात काहीच सर्वेला कारण की हे सगळं होतं ना ते कालपर्यंत काहीच नाही आज विचार पण नाही काहीच नाही कारण की काल आम्ही ना सगळं म्हणजे करवेले
Siddesh.
मला त्याचं काही तिकडे द्यायचं ना त्यांना डायरेक्टली फिरून तुमचं त्याचं नाव फोन नंबर
Can somebody call Siddesh? Tell him please.
आणि डायरेक्ट आतला
Yes, sir, will call. Yes, sir.
इकडं फक्त विचारायचं काही राहिलं काही राहिलं काय ओसवालचा मिस कॉल शिट शिट
Calculating also see for a glass we are going to see USP method, and tomorrow when we are going to do practical, told you the practical of Monday I have shifted to Friday. Okay, so when we are going to in practical we are going to see evaluation of glass container. By today we are going to see by USP method. Tomorrow we are going to see by IP method. Okay, so please remember the IP and USP method, right? Right. USP of for evaluation glass is different. Okay, so now let's do the USP method for evaluating the toxicity of the plastic material. Phase 1, phase 2 and phase 3. In phase 1 what we do is we take the small of this plastic material use it for rabbit. In the
Sorry to interrupt, sir, but the voice is breaking a lot.
so let it's still breaking.
Yes, sir, now you are audible.
Is it breaking for all? Is okay? Hello.
Yes, sir. Oh, yes, sir, now it's fine.
Okay. So let us start from beginning about the top. Now, phase 1 what you do is you implant material intramuscularly. In phase 2 we're going to take tubes of sodium chloride. So you have the plastic in the intravenously inside the mice. Next, what you're going to do is you're also going to elute the elute. Okay, polyethylene glycol to put inside the container sesame oil, and you are going to take the elutes of sesame, etc. is taking from this. Okay, that you are going to inject intraperitoneally inside the mice. So first you are injecting intramuscular. In the third phase, you are injecting it intraperitoneally. Okay, inside the mice, you are doing that. Okay, in first, you are directly incorporating the plastic material. In second stage, you are injecting the elutes of sodium chloride injection with alcohol or without alcohol. You are injecting polyethylene glycol 400, and you are injecting sesame oil. This is what you are doing in phase 2. In phase 3, what you are going to do is you are going to inject all the 4 elutes now, but now you are going to inject it subcutaneously, okay, inside the rabbit. So what are the four elutes? Sodium chloride without alcohol, okay, then elutes of polyethylene glycol 400 and elutes of sesame oil. So these are the 4 elutes which you are now going to inject inside the rabbit. Okay, here it was mice, here it is mice when you are doing for elutes. Okay, and when you are doing it for when you are injecting the phase 1, that is in rabbit, and phase 4 is also inside the rabbit. Okay, so these are the things that you have to remember. So you are injecting all the 4 elutes subcutaneously now inside the rabbit, right? Now when can you say that the test has passed? Okay, when the reaction of these test samples, okay, are not greater than the control samples. Okay, so your control samples will not be in contact with your plastic container. So that reactiveness and your test sample's reactiveness should not be with great difference. So your test sample should not be significantly greater in reactivity than your control sample. It should not show great reaction. Okay, so that is the time that if it does not show higher reaction, okay, than your control samples, then you can say that your plastic is now safe for use. It is not having any toxic effect on your product, okay, or inside the body. The next container that you're going to use is your glass container. Okay, now it is the most preferred material, as you very well know, but it has some disadvantage. Basically the basic disadvantage is what? It is brittle in nature. Okay, so it breaks. Also the second disadvantage it has is it is melted and molded at a very high temperature. There are two types of glass container. You have soda lime glass container, and you have borosilicate glass container. These are basically made up of, these glass containers are basically made up of silicon dioxide tetrahedron. Okay, and they are what? Chemically resistant as compared to that of plastic. Okay, but the problem that happens is, as they are these type of glass which are chemical resistant and made up of silicon dioxide tetrahedron, okay, they are brittle in nature. Okay, the second disadvantage that it has is it is melted and molded at a very high temperature. Okay, so when the glass are converted into vials, or when they are converted into ampoules, okay, that time a very high temperature is required, okay, for it to be first melted and for it to be molded. Okay, so what usually is done, some agents have been added to this silicon dioxide tetrahedron. Okay, so there is some chemical modification taking place, and this melting and molding temperature can be brought down. So for this, what is usually been added is the oxides of sodium, potassium, calcium, aluminum added. Also the strength, you add the boric oxide is been added in order to increase the strength. Now what does boric oxide or all these oxides they basically do is, okay, they enter into the chemical structure of this silicon and oxygen, and they weaken the bond of the silicon and oxygen. That is, silicon dioxide is made up of silicon and oxygen. So it enters into the structure of this silicon dioxide, and it weakens the bond between silicon and oxygen. Because of this, what happens is there is lowering of the temperature for melting as well as for molding. This happens, this is good in the terms of manufacturing, but because of this, there is also lowering of chemical resistance. And that is the reason why these glass containers may react with your product. That's why you have to take care. So when they react with the product, and if the chemical resistance has been reduced, what it is going to affect? It is going to affect the pH. There may be raise in pH. Why only raise in pH? Because your glass containers are basically alkaline in nature. Okay, hence they may cause raise in pH of your product. They may also catalyze reactions. So the reactions which are not going to take place as such between the maybe the product, maybe the active ingredient and the excipients, maybe between the excipient and the excipient, maybe between the two active ingredients, the reaction which is not going to be taking place, but because of this glass, the reaction may get catalyzed and the reaction may happen. Okay, or it not only catalyzes, but it also takes parts in the chemical reaction, and this reaction rate usually increases at elevated temperature. And when is your product going to come in contact with elevated temperature, your glass and your product? During autoclaving. Your glass and your products are going to come in contact with at elevated temperature, and there may be raise in pH, there may be the reaction, it may catalyze the reaction, or the chemical reaction may happen. Okay. That reason why USP, okay, as this reaction may happen, so that's why we have to see the chemical resistance of a glass which is in which we are going to pack our product. Now the USP test, as I told you, today we are going to study, today we are going to see about the USP test, and tomorrow we are going to see about the IP test in our practical. So why I'm telling you, so that you don't confuse when you write down your gate paper. Okay. So now the USP test, it includes powder glass test, it includes water attack test. Okay. And powder glass test, what you're doing is you are powdering the glass, you are grounding the glass, you are making it smaller in size. Okay. So you take small, and that the test is carried out on that. Okay. Whereas the water attack test is usually performed on the whole container, right? Now, both these tests, what it measures is the amount of alkaline constituent that is leached out from the glass in the presence of purified water and under elevated temperature. So it talks about the amount of alkaline constituent that is leached from the glass. Let us see the first test, that is the powder glass test. In powder glass test, what you're going to do is you're going to take 6 containers, right? Randomly you're going to select from the batch that you have received. In the batch you must have lakhs of containers, right? Lakhs of ampoules you must have received, thousands of ampoules must be received by you. Okay, from that you are going to randomly select any 6 containers. You are going to first rinse them thoroughly with purified water, because that is the step. Filling the container, we first rinse the container, we first wash the container. In the similar manner, you are going to first rinse the container with purified water. Then you are going to dry it with the air. Okay. Next thing, now it is a powder glass test. So in powder glass test, what you are going to do now is you are going to crush the container to make powder of it. Okay. Now you are going to crush the container to near about 25 mm, right? Then you are going to take 100 gram, and 100 gram, okay, take 100 gram, and that you are going to divide into 3 equal portion. you are going to see that it passes through mesh size 20. That should be the size of your glass particle. So they should pass through your 20 size mesh. You are going to then transfer it into a resistant conical flask, so that the conical flask itself does not show any reaction. So you are going to take this grounded, you can say glass, and this grounded glass you are going to transfer it into the conical flask. So these are the grounded glass particles. Okay, near about 100 ग्राम को जिसमें हमने 3 parts में divide किया है, and that you are going to fill into this. Now you are going to put acetone inside it, and you are going to rinse it 3 times with acetone. Okay, so you are going to rinse 3 times with acetone. Then you are going to dry it so that you remove the acetone. Okay, you are going to dry it at 140 degrees Celsius for 20 minutes. Then what you are going to take is take 10. You are going to take 10 grams of it into a volumetric flask, and inside it you are going to add 50 ml of water. ठीक है, सही में आ गया. So आपने volumetric flask ले लिया. Okay, in that you have added this 10 grams which is properly been washed, okay, with acetone, whatever you have done, crushed, etc. That 10 grams you are taking in a volumetric flask, and to the volumetric flask you are adding 50 ml of water also, right? Then you are going to cap and autoclave it. The same thing that happens. So you have this water is acting as your product, okay, and this glass is acting as your glass container. So doing is we are capping and we are autoclaving it so that the reaction, this glass which is under the test, which we have chosen and which we have crushed, the reaction between this glass and this water takes place. So what is going to happen if this water becomes alkaline in nature. This alkaline water now you are going to cool, right? Because you are autoclave it, so it is heated. So you are going to cool it, and you are going to become yellow in color. So the amount is going to give you the quantity that is inside this water. That is going to give you the quantity of alkali that is leached out from this container, which we have crushed and which we have properly washed and which have kept in contact with this water. Is it clear? Have you understood it? Understood? Let us go for the poll. Okay. What is difference between powdered glass test and water attack test? That we are going to see further now. You have to write down answer in one line. Just in one line you have to write down. What is the difference between your powder glass test and water attack test? That is, one is carried out on the whole container, and powder glass test is carried out on your powdered material. That you have to write down. So just write down powder glass test is carried out on powdered material, whereas whole glass test is carried out on whole container.
not able to give the poll.
We are
Okay,
not
Not
able
able
to
to
give
write
the
the
poll.
answer.
nobody.
Sir, we are
No,
unable to
sir.
write it. We are unable to write it there.
Mm,
Type it. We are not able to type it.
Option to write the answer.
no, you're not
I
able to
guess,
write the answer.
yeah, there's no option only to, we can
Okay,
write
okay.
just live.
Okay, fine. I'll close this poll. I'll open अपना normal poll. I just thought कि कोई दूसरा type का poll try करेंगे. ठीक है. Don't worry. I will type some other question. Okay. अपना वही करते हैं. क्या बोलते हैं उसको? Yes or no. New poll. Yes. Save. No. Okay. Multiple choice question. Okay. Number of tests carried out. Okay, so there are two tests that carried out, that is powdered and this. So I'll write down 1 and I'll write down 2. So how many tests are carried out? 2. So you have to click on 2. Okay. So there are two types of data carried out: powder glass and your whole glass test, whole container test. Basically, see, everybody is not like जोगड़े करना. जैसे जोगड़े करने चालू कर दिया था, उसका लेक्चर और पॉकेट में रख दिया था उसको. So this is to check how many are Siddesh Joglekar in your class now. So at present Siddesh Joglekar 12. Yeah, I know. Bhavana Singh Bhavana. I know he is in Garware. ऐसे ही मस्ती कर रहा हूँ. 9.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Sir, I didn't hear.
काय नाही कर तुझं काम सिद्धेश. मस्ती कर.
Sir, हाँ. नहीं सर लेक्चर करो.
काय लेक्चर करतोय खोटाला.
नाही सर एकत्र बसलोय ते चुकून अनम्यूट झाला.
काय लेक्चर विचार करत नाही तो. ठीक आहे कर काम कर. That is also important. Don't worry. Okay.
Yes, sir.
As far as you are doing good work, okay. Okay.
Okay, sir.
So,
Thank you.
so there are 8 like you, Siddesh. Don't worry, you are not alone. There are 8 who have not answered. So there are 8 Siddesh Joglekar in our class at present. Okay, who have just on their what you call that lecture or सुन नहीं रहे, घूम रहे यहाँ वहाँ.
Sir, I have answered the poll.
Okay. चलो bye. Okay, I've closed the poll now. Yeah. This was about the powdered glass test. Let us move further with the water attack test. Okay, as I told you, water attack test is carried out on the whole container. Now it is performed only when the containers have been exposed to sulfur dioxide fumes. Now these sulfur dioxide fumes basically neutralizes the surface alkaline oxides. Okay, and thereby the glass is chemically more resistant, and hence, as you know that it is been exposed to sulfur dioxide, as the surface alkalis are already been neutralized, hence you do not go for the powdered glass test, but you can go for the water attack test, which is carried out on the whole container, right? Now the test that is carried out is in the similar fashion, whereby you take the container, you wash it, you dry it, you wash it with acetone, you clear it, then you add water inside it, that is 50 ml of water is been added inside it. You again autoclave it, and then the contents you check it against H2SO4, 0.02% H2SO4, you check it against it, and you determine the amount of alkali that is present in the water. Okay, so what are the limits? Okay, for powder glass test, which is carried out for type 1, which you are going to see further, type 3 and non-parental NPS type 4 or non-parental glass. Okay, the limits for type 1 is 1, so 1 ml. For type 3 it is 8.5 ml, and for non-parental glass, it is, that is type 4 glass, it is 15 ml. Then for water attack test for type 2 glass, okay, which is of 100 ml or less, it is 0.7 ml, and for type 2 glass it is 0.2 ml. इससे ज़्यादा, okay, H2SO4 should not be utilized, okay, for the neutralization. If you use more amount of H2SO4, it means that what is happening is more amount of alkali is present inside water. So more amount of alkali has been leached out from the glass. So the glass is not chemically resistant. So under this only your H2SO4 should be consumed. Got it? So these are the limits for the powder glass test and the water attack test. Now, further to this, now depending upon your reactivity, your glasses are classified into type 4. This you must have already studied. I will just revise it for you. Okay. Type 1 glass, they are known as highly resistant borosilicate glass. These are the, for this, the test that you carry out is powder glass test. Type 2 glass is treated with sulfur dioxide fumes. As it is treated with sulfur dioxide fumes, as I told you earlier only, these are soda lime glass which are treated with sulfur dioxide fumes. And as they are treated with sulfur dioxide fumes, that's what the test that you carried out is on this is water attack test. The type 3 are soda lime glass, but they are not treated with sulfur dioxide fume. That's why the test that is carried out is the powder glass test. Okay, and your type 4 is your general glass, okay, which you are using in your labs, which you are using at your home, etc. That is a general purpose glass. It is again a soda lime glass. Okay, so all these three are soda lime glass. These two are not treated with sulfur dioxide. This is treated with sulfur dioxide. That's why it is chemically resistant. Okay, that's why it is used in parenteral. Type 1 is also used in parenteral. Okay, and for all the remaining except for type 2, which is treated with sulfur dioxide, you use powder glass test. Whereas only for type 2, you are going to use your water attack test. Right? Now let us see the main important thing. We have seen it from the point of view of the test that are to be carried out. Okay, over here. Now let us see the uses of these glasses. Now type 1 glass is the highly resistant glass, very well preferred. Okay, when you're preparing parental, when you're filling the parental preparation. Okay, it is very costly in nature, but whenever you are using buffered or unbuffered, mainly aqueous solutions, okay, whenever you are using aqueous solution, they may be buffered or they may not be buffered because you are buffering it because so that the pH does not change even if some alkali goes inside it. Okay, or when you are using powders, parental powders that you are talking about, that time this type of glass is being preferred. Okay, now if your solution is buffered, okay, so that the alkali that is getting leached out is not going to cause much of effect, okay, then at that time for buffered aqueous solution having pH below 7, okay, you use type 2 glass, right? Or for it can be also used for dry powders, right? Because dry powders are not that much of reactive. Type 3 is preferable for dry powders, as I told you, as they are not that much reactive, and it is used for oleaginous solutions. If it is an aqueous solution, then you cannot go for this type of a glass for aqueous solution. Then if you are using an aqueous solution, then you have to either use type 1 or you have to use type 2 glass, whether it is buffered or not buffered. For dry powders, not much of a problem. You can use type 3 also because dry powders are not that much reactive. Okay, you can use type 2 also. It is good glass. Type 1 is the best glass, so कोई problem नहीं. Dry powders आप कहीं पे भी डाल सकते हैं. but aqueous hai, so you have to use type 1 or type 2. If you are using aqueous in type 2, then see to it that it is buffered. Okay, then you can use it for oleaginous solution. Okay, as there is no water, aqueous solutions nahi, oleaginous solutions hai, then you can use your type 3 also, and they can be used for non-aqueous preparation. So if the preparation is non-aqueous, then you can go for type 3 glass. Type 4 glass are known as non-parental, NP glass. It is also known as type 4, or it is also known as NP. NP is non-parental. Okay. So as the name suggests, it is not for parental, okay, and for suspension or emulsion. So they are not for these kind of preparations, right? These are for general purpose. Your lab में जो आपके present for reactions etc. or that are present at home, for general type of things, you are using this type of glass. That glass that are used for packing are type 1, type 2 and type 3. Type 1 is highly resistant, type 2 is less highly resistant, and type 3 is the least one. Okay, so in type 3 you are basically going to pack only oleaginous solution, okay, and not aqueous solution. In type 2 you are going to pack aqueous solution but which are buffered, okay, and in type 1 you are going to pack the aqueous solution which can be unbuffered also. ठीक है, buffered तो आप pack कर ही सकते हो, no problem, but even if it is unbuffered then also you can pack it inside it. Okay, let us go further to the requirement from the glass container. So what are the various requirements from your glass? So the first requirement from your glass container is that it should protect your light sensitive material. So in order to protect your light sensitive material so that it does not get degraded by your UV rays, so what you're going to do is you're going to use amber color glass. But the problem is this amber color glass have iron oxides, okay, which may get leached into the product, right? That's why the API which are degraded by your iron, okay, or they are catalyzed by your iron, okay, these types of preparations cannot be packed in your amber glass. In such cases, you can go for opaque carton. So first thing that you require from your product is, from your glasses, that it should protect your light sensitive product, but care should be taken that your material is not sensitive to iron. The second important thing characteristic that you require is the physical strength, okay, because there is a lot of pressure difference that is going to taken place during autoclaving. So you require some particular physical strength of your glass. So the second characteristic that is required from a glass container, that it should have physical, so that it can withstand the high pressure difference that is going to be developed during autoclaving. The third thing that is required, that you require from it, that it should be sturdy enough the different abuses that it is going to happen during the processing. You are doing autoclaving etc., you are washing it, isn't it? So for that processing, it should withstand that abuse. It should you are shipping it, you are storing it, there are thermal shocks that you are giving to your glass, okay. So all these things, all this processing, shipping, storage, thermal shock, during all this process, this glass should be sturdy in nature. Next, it should be transparent in nature so that you can inspect the content. You do the inspection of the particles that are present inside it. When you are going to see evaluation, that time you are going to see, we are going to evaluate each and every container for the particles, whether if they are present or not. So it should be transparent enough so that you can evaluate, you can inspect the contents, okay. Then it should have uniform physical dimensions, isn't it? Because your delivery tube is entering inside the container and it is going to deliver the product. So you should have uniform physical dimension so that it facilitates the automatic production operations, right? And lastly, it should reduce the adherence of heavy costly suspension inside the container. So if you have a container, the product should not get adhere to this container, okay. For example, the suspension or emulsion, they should not get adhere to it. For this, what you do is you have hydrophobic type of surface can be prepared so that this content do not get adhere to the container, okay, and it can be coated with your silicone fluids, okay. Any question you have? These were the different characteristics that are required. Any question you have? If not, then it is. Are you able to hear me? Hello, are you able to hear me?
That's audible, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, okay. So, any questions you have? Okay, if no, then chalo, bye bye, see you. Take care. Go for your next lecture. Bye, see you.